Hey, everybody. We are live on the air. This is Dave, and I've joined with Dad and the Elephant for episode 7, where we're going to be talking about some spooky games tonight. So as we get started, I just wanted to kick off with letting the guys talk about some of the games that they've been playing recently. So we'll start off with Tim the Dad.
All right, so last 3 games I've been playing was Sagrada, which is a very cool little dice bingo, as I like to call it. You've got a little card that has colors and numbers on there, and you are drafting dice in order to try to fill your card out. So it's a very cool game. I've also been playing This Belongs in a Museum, and that is kind of an Indiana Jones style. At least the artwork is kind of Indiana Jones. It's a tile laying game where you are trying to collect relics and expand your base camp. And then finally, and I don't know why it's taking me this long, but my new jam is Orleans. This is a freaking awesome game, man. I tell you what, I played this for the first time last week, and I was just, oh, I want to play this again. In fact, this may be the best game that I've played this year. I sat down the other day, and I wanted to try it solo. And I'm not much of a solo player. I prefer the social experience and, playing with other players. But and the solo problem is that it's the exact same event for 15 rounds for the most part. For the first 10, you've got famine, and then for the last 5, you've got double famine. But I prefer the other things that are in the base game. But oh man, this is awesome! And I know Tim, you said you played this. In fact, you've got a video on it. But I cannot believe it's taken me this long to discover the awesomeness of this. I can't wait to play it. In fact, my game group is playing it again tomorrow night. We loved it so much. So that is my top 3. I'll send it over to you, Tim the Elephant.
Games that we've been playing just recently, we just did release a video on Guardian's Call, which is a Kickstarter game. You guys can go and check that one out. We've been playing Azul from Plan B Games, been actually a little addicted to that one. Now that one's not released yet. They are taking pre-orders. But it's a game where you're basically just taking well, why don't we go back to Guardian Call? Guardian Call is a bluffing game and also set collecting game. Works, I think, a little bit better with more of a group, but Carmen and I still, just the 2 of us, have a lot of fun just playing it. Azul is about your collecting tiles, colored tiles, to be able to transfer over onto a wall, and you're tiling a wall for the Palace of the King. Sounds kind of a wonky theme, but boy, does it work well, and boy, is it highly addictive to play. Of course, we've been playing Massive Darkness, a lot of Massive Darkness. We really do enjoy this one quite a bit, and we should have our 3rd quest going up hopefully here in about another week. How about you, Dave?
Let's see. This week, or the past, since we've had the last show, I've been busy, so I haven't done a whole lot of gaming, but I did play 3. I've got to get a chance to get together with my friend Chris King, and so we played a game from Small Box Games called Cartouche Dynasties, which has like a worker placement aspect, and you're collecting sets of cards, trying to gather points. It's got an Egyptian theme to it, really quite a bit of fun. And then there was another game that we played. It's a 2-player game from Pegasus Spiele called 4 Seasons. It was kind of an impulse buy that I picked up at Gen Con because the cards had cool artwork and had numbers on them. And there was like these little acrylic figures. I'm like, oh, this looks kind of neat. And so that's kind of an interesting game where you are building a tableau in front of you, and also in the 4 seasons in the middle, you're adding cards to them to build up the values of how they're going to score. And the interesting thing is that your tableau is going to be how much influence that you have over the seasons. But the twist is cards into your hand, and you're choosing 2 of them, and you're giving them to your opponent, and they're going to play them. So it's like you have a hand of cards, and you're choosing the 2, and you're giving them to your opponent, and your opponent has to decide, are they going to put the card in front of themselves or in the season. So it's kind of an interesting game. We're going to be filming a playthrough so you can see actually how it works. And then this past Friday, I got a chance to get together with Chris again, and we played Gateway Uprising, which is this deck building game with some area control. This is like take Dominion and ramp it up quite a bit. We really enjoyed it. I can't wait to play it again with some more different things. We just played the setup for like the first game, so we haven't even cracked the tip of the iceberg with the amount of different cards that are in there. So those were the 3 that I got a chance to play. So cool. I think you guys have, I know Tim the Elephant, you've played Gateway Uprising, but yeah. Tim the Dad, you have not played that one quite yet.
Not yet. I've got it. It's sitting on my shelf. It's open. We've done an unboxing video on it. Just have not had a chance to go to the table with my game group yet.
All right. So anyways, that's the stuff that we've been playing. I see for our viewers that our friend overseas is really into Tyrants of the Underdark, has become one of his new favorite games that he's been playing. So we were just talking about that game before we went on the air. But let's move into spooky games. We are kicking off the month of October, and it seems to be a fun thematic thing to do to cover spooky games during this month. I know that when it comes to themes and their months, Tim the Dad is like the king of that. He's got different things all year long doing different themes. So why don't you start us off talking about why you chose the spooky games, and then we'll start off with you with some of your favorite spooky themed games.
Well, Megan and I kind of started that back, I think, when we first started the channel. One of our favorite games, and it's on my list, we really wanted to play, and I'm not telling you the name of it right yet. So, but we wanted to play it on Halloween night, and it requires more than 2 players, so we figured out a way to do a 3rd player. And we didn't do a playthrough of it, and we didn't do a review of it, but we just kind of said, hey, this is what we're playing. And then we kind of said this is how it happened, because this is kind of a narrative game. If you guys haven't figured out which one I'm talking about yet. And we didn't want to spoil things. So the next year, I think we said, hey, let's look at some of the other spooky games that we might have added to our collection. So, October is a great time to pull those out. Kind of like September around Talk Like a Pirate Day is a great time to pull the pirate games out. We choose October to pull out all the spooky games. So let me get into my top 3, if you will, spooky games. Now, one of those that really would probably be in there is Mysterium, but I'm going to hold that off of this list because we're going to talk about it later. I want to talk about 3 other games. So the first game I want to talk about is Transylvania Curses and Traders. Now, this is from Wouldn't It Be Awesome If Games. We featured this on our channel last year. It's got huge tiles that you are basically going to take your character around all these different tiles. You're going to be picking up cards that are weapons and such. But you also may become a trader. You might become a vampire. You might become a werewolf. You don't know. So it's kind of fun to see how that is going to progress. And the artwork on this is stellar. This is also a game that you're probably going to be able to find pretty cheap. It's been out for a few years now, and I've seen it on clearance on a number of places. My local game store had it on their clearance shelf. I think maybe Miniature Market. So this is one that you should still be able to find fairly easily, but it's a lot of fun. Second is, and I forgot to grab the box, but is Eldritch Horror. Now, I've only played that really once because it was a long game and we had 4 players on it. We actually played it on International Tabletop Day.
I have played Eldritch Horror 30+ times. I absolutely love that game.
It is a great game. Unfortunately, it's been one that's been hard to get to the table just because of having so many other games to play and the fact that it does take a little bit of time. But it is an awesome game, so I know that I have no problem having that in my top 3 spooky themed games. And I really look forward to playing it again.
Just don't play it with 8. I made the mistake of playing that game with 8 players, the full complement, and it was bad. And we had one event that crippled us, set us back an hour and 45 minutes because of one bad die roll.
Wow. Yeah, that can happen. So, and then my number one spooky themed game that I was talking about earlier that I actually have up on the shelf. It's covered behind a bunch of them that, you know, I didn't get out ahead of time because, duh, is Betrayal at House on the Hill. This is a very narrative-driven game. It is one of those where it has tension because when you're trying to do a haunt roll and make sure you don't you're not the one that's setting off the haunt. Yeah, there's suspense. There's suspense whenever everybody else rolls the dice for the haunt roll too. The narrative of the story is very rich and detailed, and it then becomes a one against many. Somebody's going to turn traitor. You don't know who it's going to be. Is it going to be the person that activated the haunt? Is it going to be the person that's to the right of the haunt? Is it going to be the person who has the worst stats? You don't know. And the layout, it's a tile laying game, so you're going to basically be creating this haunted house in the main floor, the upper floor, and the basement. And the expansion, which I have not played yet, adds actually another floor, which is the attic. There's just so much going on here that your replayability is through the roof. The base game comes with 50 different haunts. We've played it probably at least 10 times, and we've never duplicated a haunt yet. We've played it with many different people, so the dynamics are always different. But it is an awesome game. It is absolutely, without a doubt, my number one spooky theme game.
In that game, does somebody always go crazy at the end and become a traitor?
Not always. In fact, the game that I was alluding to, the first game that Megan and I played on a Halloween night years ago, we actually did not have a traitor. It was a treasure hunt. But that's the only one I know that somebody didn't go bad.
Huh, that's pretty cool. So I went a little lighter on my selections. I was going to choose the Eldritch Horror. I was going to choose Claustrophobia and some other deeper games, but I decided to kind of do a change of pace because the games I'm going to show you are games that I have played a lot, and especially with my children. The first one is Phantom Society, and this is by Yellow Games. And what this is all about is, you see, you got the board right here, and these are all tiles of the house, and each one of the tiles is you got different colors, and each color will represent one of the ghosts. And the tiles go from 1 value to 6 value. And the ghost player is going to hide each one of his ghosts under each a tile that matches the color of the ghost. And then it's up to the ghost hunters to try to find the ghosts. Now, what the ghosts want to do is they want to destroy the mansion, and they want to do, at least depending on the number of players, and typically if you're playing like a 2-player game, they want to do like $50,000 worth of damage to the home before all 4 of the ghosts are found. And the way that they attack is they can go basically just orthogonal from the location that they're at, or even diagonal from their location, and destroy a room adjacent to their location where they're hiding. And what ends up happening is that through deduction, you'll eventually find where them ghosts are, unless the player's playing really good and they can do enough damage quick enough. Super fun game, and I have probably played that one, oh boy, 40, 50 times, I bet, because my family likes it a lot. Here's another one. This is an old one. This was reprinted, but this is just called Ghosts. And I actually found this at Goodwill for just a couple of dollars. And it's a 2-player game. And what this is about is you each get a set of ghosts on your side of the board, kind of like chess. And if you notice, they got like little blue dots. See the blue dot right there? And then they've got orange dots. And I believe the blue dots are good ghosts, the orange dots are bad ghosts. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to march, if I recall correctly, your evil ghost through this location or that location opposite of your side of the board. But what ends up happening is that your ghost can encounter the opponent's ghosts and you eliminate them. But the problem is that you can also, if you eliminate like all of their negative ghosts, then you actually lose. You want to try to eliminate all their positive ghosts. So if I recall correctly, it's a good ghost, you want to try to march to the door. I can't remember off the top of my head. We've played that one quite a bit, though. We like it a lot. Last but not least is Midnight Party. Once again, I found this at Goodwill, and what this is about, it's another silly one, but Hugo the ghost is going to come up from the attic, and he's going to eventually make his way up to here, and then he's going to start walking all around the outside of the hallway here. Now, what happens is, at the beginning of the game, you're going to set up all your pieces in the hallway, and then you're going to roll a die, and what you're trying to do is you're trying to get your characters into the rooms here, and these rooms will score you victory points, depending on where you're at. But as Hugo comes up, he'll start capturing your people. And basically, if he captures your people, obviously, he'll send them down into the cellar here, and then you get negative points. So a super funny game, because you'll roll the die, and you're trying to move your character, but if you roll the ghost, then you move Hugo, and holy moly, we have had some really fun times. In fact, that is the game that's actually featured on the cover of my my YouTube channel with my two kids looking over the top, is that game right there, Midnight Party. But yeah, I found both of those at Goodwill. So anyways, that's my three. How about you, Dave?
All right, so my three. I like start off with the One Night series, the One Night Ultimate Werewolf and Vampire. These are basically a 10-minute version of the werewolf game, deduction. Everybody's given roles, and you have to close your eyes, and you've got werewolves that are trying to basically off some of the and stuff. In the full-blown game, in the 10-minute game, you're trying to figure out who the werewolves are through brief discussion, and there's different roles that characters can play. So the Daybreak, actually has both, but Daybreak has some additional characters in there, and then the Vampires actually is a totally, it can be combined with the other ones, but it's got its own, and it's got some interesting twists in there. But again, just a really quick 10-minute social deduction game. They play up to players. This Vampire one plays up to 10, so good party games to play. So, and then you can just play those, kick off an evening, or you can play them a couple different times in a row, because they're only 10 minutes apiece, opposed to like a normal werewolf game would be if you have a lot of people. The second one is Letters from Whitechapel. This is a hidden movement game, and I've been a fan of hidden movement games back since I was a kid. I think the first real strategy game that I ever had was a game called Scotland Yard, and this is much like that. In Letters from Whitechapel, the one player is taking on the role of Jack the Ripper, and the other players are taking on the roles of the like the bobbies, like the police. And each night he has to go out and commit murders, and he has to try to escape back to his hideout. And so players are trying to move around, and he's revealing where the murder takes place, so you have an idea where he starts, and then it's just a matter of trying to track him down. But Jack has a few tricks up his sleeves. He can jump in a carriage and move a couple spaces. He can move through an alley, a couple different things that he can do to try to get away. So it's a really interesting game, and it plays up to 5 players, but surprisingly, this plays extremely well with 2 players, one person playing Jack and the other one controlling all the police officers. So it does take a little bit of time, but Letters from Whitechapel, definitely one that I really enjoy. And probably like my second favorite spooky theme game, because my first one is one that we're going to be reviewing in a little bit, and that's Mysterium. But Elder Sign is essentially a Cthulhu-themed Yahtzee. In Elder Sign, you're taking on the role of these different investigators, and you have different their own amount of sanity and also like health, and they all have unique abilities. And what you're trying to do is go around to these different locations, and you're rolling dice trying to match them to collect elder signs to prevent the ancient one from awakening. And so this particular game has several expansions that have come out for them. This one has I think in the box right here, I might have the first expansion in it. But then after the first one, they started having separate encounter decks and little twists with it. So I think right now there's a total of, there's I think 4 expansions for Elder Sign, but this one is plays up to, I think it's 8 players, 1 to 8 players, so you can play solo mode. And this is definitely more of a family-style Cthulhu-themed game where you're rolling dice. This is definitely one that if you're looking for like a spooky theme game that you can play with the kids, if you like Chuck and Dice, Elder Sign is one that you'd probably want to check out. So those are my favorite ones that I enjoy.
I had a question. Is that how you like pick up gamer chicks, as you ask them what their Elder Sign is? Say, hey baby, what's your Elder Sign?
What's your Elder Sign?
Funny thing about Elder Sign is that was one of the first games that we bought, and Megan and I really like it. But the first, well, I take that back. The year we went to Gen Con, right after that is when we launched Dad versus Daughter, and it was in part because of Elder Sign. We were going by the Fantasy Flight booth, and they had a demo table set up. There was a guy that came up. Nobody was doing demos. In fact, all the Fantasy Flight people were gone or doing other things. This guy wanted to learn how to play it. And Megan and I said, well, we'll teach you because we've played this game a lot. So we sat down and we basically taught this guy how to play. And we said, well, maybe we should do something like this for a channel, teach people how to play a game. And, after watching Tim Norris do it, I thought, if he can do it, anybody can do it. So
true.
So versus Daughter right after.
So easy a caveman can do it.
Something like that.
So, all right. So while we're on the subject of spooky themed games, what are some of the spooky themed games that you're either going to be trying to film for the channel or just playing in general? Some of the stuff that you're going to be working on. Tim the Dad, some of the spooky games that you're going to be playing this month.
All right. So one of those is Graveyards, Ghosts, and Haunted Houses. This is from Rather Dashing Games. It's very similar to This Belongs in a Museum. If you've seen that, it's Tile Lane. Have not actually had a chance to play this yet, but it's going to be one that I'm going to get to my game group real soon. Another one is one that we just got in, and we just published an unboxing on that, and that is Ghost Fighting Treasure Hunters. This is one, I think, Tim Norris, I think you've played this before.
I haven't played it, but I just received it as well because we both wrote Mattel at the same time. And Dave, I believe you got it as well.
Boom. Yep, I've got it. Yeah. But I have played. I played this a couple years ago. My friend Sean Howard had imported a copy. The German title for this is Geister Schatzsuchmeister, which stands for Ghost Treasure Hunter. And so I have had a chance to play this game before. It's pretty fun.
And then another one that we're going to do is Pandemic Reign of Cthulhu from Z-Man Games. I've actually played this one several times now, so it's just a matter of getting my game group together to play it. But this is a lot of fun, especially if you like Pandemic, but you don't like such a huge map. This is a smaller map, and it's got pretty much the Cthulhu mythos all embedded in there. That you've got 4 cities that you're going to be going through, including Arkham, Dunwich, Kingsport, and Innsmouth. So really cool game. I like this a lot. Can't wait to bring it to the channel. How about you, Tim?
I've played that Cthulhu Pandemic. The Huntress is like super overpowered. Try her out and you'll see what I'm talking about. But she is like really OP in that game. But it's super fun. I like it a lot though because I'm a nut for the Lovecraft stuff too. So, but I think you'll enjoy it. On our channel, we're going to have a few spooky games that we're going to feature this month. We will have Fate of the Elder Gods. That's going to be a new game that's going to be coming up. That was released by Greater Than Games. I've already played it once, and I did enjoy it. Once again, it's a Cthulhu-themed style game, and I do love that. You're cultists trying to actually summon your Elder God. Much like, Dave, do you remember that one, Kingsport Festival? Yes. Yeah, it's kind of like that. You know, you're taking on the role of a cultist instead of actually, you know, an investigator. So a neat twist. I like it. And I can already tell you I do enjoy the game. I haven't played a 2-player yet, though. We are going to do the Ghost Fighting Treasure Hunters. I want to try to feature Broom Service as well, because I've never played it, and I just recently picked that one up, and I thought because it is, witches flying around, that might be a good one. So we got Ghosts. We've got, I have another one. Oh, we were going to probably do another video with Mysterium as well, and maybe see if my daughter wants to come back and play the role of the Ghost. So those will be some spooky ones we'll probably feature this month. We're going to try to do one a week if we can.
All right. So over for me, stuff that we're going to be doing for the channel: Ghost Fight and Treasure Hunters. So I think that this will probably be one that we may end up covering on Dad, Dave, and the Elephant, since all three of us have it. I'm sure I actually could say that we will be talking about it. I don't know when. Maybe we might sneak it in later this month. The other one is I mentioned that Letters from Whitechapel was one of my favorite games. One of the ones that just released now is Whitehall Mystery, and this is kind of a streamlined version of Letters from Whitechapel, but it has a couple different twists in there. Jack specifically has to commit murders in these in different quadrants. So I don't know if it's going to be easier to find him or not. We'll find out. But Whitehall Mystery is one that I'm going to check out. It's a little more compact than the Letters from Whitechapel. If I hold up the boxes and compare them in size, you can see smaller. So we'll see how that goes. And then the other one that I want to play, I don't think that we're going to, I don't know if I'll cover it on the channel or not, because it's really not one it's in circulation anymore, is Fury of Dracula. My friend Chris has been really wanting to play this one. I managed to have a copy of this. It's been sitting on my shelf for a long time. I like the hidden movement game, so I'm going to learn to play Fury of Dracula. So those are the three that I'm going to be working on and trying to play this month.
Which edition of Fury of Dracula is that, Dave?
This is the 3rd edition, so this is the most recent one.
Yeah, you could tell by the cover, because that's the. I wasn't crazy about them changing the art. The thing too, I played that, and it's a lot of fun. It's very Letters from Whitechapel-ish, where you're trying to find, Dracula, whereas in Letters from Whitechapel, it's about Jack the Ripper. But it unfortunately didn't go over well with my game group, but I really enjoyed it. It's a very cat and mouse game, and I thought it was super duper fun. But yeah, anyways, I think it could actually work as a 2-player game too, just because you could take on the role of several of the hunters for one person, and then the other person play as Dracula. So, anyways.
Okay. So it sounds like we've got a bunch of spooky themed games. So for you who are watching, just post in the comments, or if you're live with us now on the chat, to let us know some of the spooky themed games that you are planning to play this month. We'd love to see what you guys are trying to get to your tables as well. Now, we alluded to probably, I don't know, I know it's my favorite spooky theme game. Tim Brezen, I think it's yours also. Tim Norris, I'm not sure if this one falls in there too, but Mysterium. This is my favorite spooky theme game. I think Tim the Dad, you said this was yours also.
It's one of my top ones. I would say Betrayal at House on the Hill is still my favorite.
Now you make me want to play that, man. I haven't played it.
And that's one where, too, if you're playing it with the right group, kind of like playing Above and Below or any other story type of game, if you got people that get into reading the cards in kind of the manner in which it's kind of written, makes it so much more enjoyable.
Nice. So anyways, since I know you're going to be doing a playthrough for it on your channel, Tim the Elephant, why don't you tell us a little bit about Mysterium?
Mysterium is basically what you're trying to do is you're playing the role of a psychic. And as a psychic, you're going to have one player playing as a ghost. Everybody else is a psychic. And the ghost is trying to offer clues to the psychics, but the ghost is not allowed to talk and speak directly to the psychics. What the ghost can do, though, is offer suggestions. And the way that the ghost is going to do that is it's going to give the psychics cards, and these cards are going to try to help guide the psychics to try to figure out who is the person who murdered the ghost. that's going to help guide them towards a person, a location, and an object. And then hopefully as you start advancing past these locations, objects, and people, then you're going to be able to eventually narrow it down to the final, group of three. So I don't know what just happened. It looked like Dave disappeared on us. Anyways, so that's the gist of the game. Now, we did do a playthrough of the game at one point in time on our channel, and we're going to probably do, in fact, another playthrough, and hopefully have my daughter come back and play as the ghost again. And anyways, you've played it, haven't you, Dad?
Yeah, in fact, we did 2 shows on it last year, where Megan and I both took turns as being the ghost. We really enjoy it. It's a lot of fun, a lot of variability because of all the different combinations of things that are going to come up. So it is one of our top games.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I really do enjoy it. I like the whole aspect, and even if you can play either role as the ghost or as just one of the psychics, and either way I've found that I've just simply enjoyed the game an awful lot. Now as the ghost, you're going to have a larger role that you're going to take on, because you're basically in charge of trying to guide these psychics, as best you can. And if you're not offering clues that are going to help these psychics and try to guide them properly, then really you have no chance of winning the game. I mean, this is a pure co-op-ish game. You all are either going to win or lose together, and as the ghost, you have a real heavy burden upon you to play them cards right and try to guide the psychics. And as the psychics, it's really fun, because then you get to talk amongst each other, and everybody gets to decide, hey, what do you think this could possibly mean? Well, it's got, this little candelabra, and that person over there, it looks like they, could have been a piano player. So maybe, it's trying to guide us towards them. But you come up with all these crazy ideas of what this could possibly mean, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, there's a lot of table talk, and I think that's what makes this one of the more enjoyable cooperative games is, when the ghost is handing out the clues and you're looking at it and you're thinking, you're going down this direction, and everybody else is like, no, I think the ghost is trying to tell you this. Especially after you've screwed up a couple times, you get gun shy, and you hope people are giving you suggestions. And I also found too that when you have a relationship with the person that's playing the ghost, it makes it a little easier, because they can, out of the cards that they have, they can try to maybe tailor the clues that they're giving to you specifically to try to trigger something. I know there's one card, I think it's the one where it's got like the guy in the stagecoach, but he's wearing like a mask or something. It's very Phantom of the Opera type. But he also kind of looks like a magician type. So, that's one of the things that kind of puts things together. Or when you've played this game several times with the same people, then you kind of get an idea of where their brain's at when they're handing you a clue. Are they trying to go off of the color? Are they picking something so obscure? Because these cards are whacked. It's like somebody was smoking crack and drawing and just coming up with all these things. There's like a rat in a top coat with factories behind them, just belching smoke. You've got people on high wires, and ladders that go to nowhere. It's very whimsical. I have not played the expansions for this yet. I would really like to, because I feel like I've gone through enough of the cards in the base game that I kind of want some different options. But yeah, this is an awesome co-op game that does play really great with a lot of players.
Now, there's only one expansion currently available, right?
I thought Dave said there's 2.
I thought the second one was coming out this month.
There should be. Now, there were some limited copies at Gen Con for the new expansion, and I'm not sure what all that adds other than more clue cards, which is always nice, because I know that that's one thing with Mysterium, is that a lot of people were going through the clue cards, and then they started using Dixit cards, which is Dixit's another game that uses like the funky, wacky art, and they were doing that. But I haven't had that issue. I have played with the first expansion, and it adds some new characters, and it adds more clue cards. also in my copy of the expansion also had the promo. There was some promo cards that came with it, so I added those in as well. I think they were like extra items and stuff. But the one thing that I found with the expansion is it makes it a little bit more difficult because some of the characters are very similar to the ones in the base game. And so now the ghost has a harder time when trying to give the clues. There could be a couple of them that are very similar, and so it makes it a lot more challenging when you're giving the clues. You have to be a little more looking for little nuances to make them stand out with the clues. So it makes it a little bit more challenging, which I like. I think the game itself is quite challenging, and I do like the fact that the difficulty can be scaled by the number of times that that you can draw new cards with that little moving that little crow on there. So I don't know if you guys have tried playing on any of the harder modes or not.
I have not, but that is probably my only negative about the game is that you are limited by the cards that you have in your hand, and sometimes you just can't make them work, even using the crow and you know, getting some other cards. It would be nice if you had either a larger hand size or ones where you could go through and maybe you know, pick certain ones.
Yeah, I've got the first expansion. I've yet to play it though.
So, yeah, I know that we played Mysterium. Now, one of the things I wanted to show you, and I had gone off camera for a little bit. One of the things that's, and I wanted to, one of the challenging things of playing the Ghost is trying not to give any information as you're giving the clues, no facial gestures and stuff. Well, last year, Asmodee had this Asmo Play thing, and so they had events that you could play in the store, and they actually gave you a mask, and so I'll put it on so you can see it. But it's actually like you become like an expressionless face. Oh, when you give the clues,
where'd Dave go?
You can't tell.
Hey, where'd Dave go?
I think it's an improvement.
So you can't tell what I'm trying to say by just dropping the clues in front of you. So it's really
you look like Mike Myers.
That's what I thought.
I know. But so anyway, so they had these masks that they gave you, and actually it's kind of a neat way when you're playing. Although you know, you only have like little spot to try and breathe in. But
I want to wear that to bed and freak my wife out.
Oh, you probably would.
Be like, hey, baby, feeling frisky.
And they also have. Oh yeah, thanks, Chris, for reminding me. There is a soundtrack too that you can play. That you can play during the game. So that kind of adds a little bit of ambiance as well.
Yeah, in our video of it, I think both videos we had the soundtrack playing, and it's pretty eerie sounding stuff.
So
can you get like a little app for that, or how do you get that?
I think it's directly from their website.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to check
I don't think
out.
you can. Yeah, I don't think you can download it. Just open up the page and you can actually have it streaming in the background. Is I think what.
Well, no, you can actually download it because I have it on my iPad. In fact, let me pull it up and I can play a little clip here.
I would love
there
it.
There we go. So, but you know, I think with Mysterium, one of the things that I found interesting too, you know, it is a cooperative game, and we're trying to work together. And I've only played it with higher player counts, and I really like it with that because I really like these types of games. I really like that, the think tank of all the people that are working together, trying to come out with clues, and you end up sometimes talking yourselves out of things. But the one change that was in Mysterium from its previous releases, like I know that a lot of people were exposed to this game when Portal Games released it as Tajemniczy Domostwo, was Polish version of Mysterium. But they have those clairvoyant tokens where you can actually bet on on another opponent to see if they are going to be correct or not with their guesses, so that you can move up that clairvoyant track, so that when you make it to the last round, you can have more clue cards to look at. So, what are your guys' thoughts on that? Do you like that aspect of it? Do you like the being able to bet against your opponents? I mean, we're all trying to work together. Or do you feel that? Do you like that, or do you feel it's kind of a disconnect in the game?
I don't mind it. I like having the tokens to say, yeah, I think you're right. Just because you do move up on the clairvoyance track. Ooh, did I scare you?
Yes.
So
I don't see a purpose to it. I mean, I guess it's a dude. He's gonna put the mask on again. Yeah, I don't see a need to it. When you play with just 3 players, one person plays as the ghost, 2 players are psychics, and you don't even use that board with the clairvoyance track. And truthfully, it didn't make a difference to me. Yeah, sure, you could say, yeah, I agree with this person or I don't agree with that person, but I don't know, whatever. I guess it's just something more you got to think about. But it didn't exist in the Polish edition, right?
No, it did not.
Yeah, to me, it's
You
just
just had
tacked
to.
on.
You
It
just
ain't
had to.
necessary.
Yeah, you just had to get through the. Try to get all 3 things like the person, place, and thing
Yeah.
in the 7
Yeah,
nights.
and it works fine the way it is. I mean, it's just an extra step, and it doesn't feel necessary to me at all. Are you ever going to find that
Right.
soundtrack?
my
playing
iPad
Tetris?
crashed a while back, so it must not have made it back on there.
As long as you're not watching porn all of a sudden, it's like, yeah, that'd be weird.
Family show, Tim.
So.
Family show.
Yeah, so I do think one of the interesting things about Mysterium, the way that that's all created, is basically a mesh of 2 different games. I mean, there's a lot like if you've ever played Dixit, it took that concept of that and then mixed it with Clue. And a lot. I know that there's a lot of people that are in the gaming community that once they start playing hobby type games, mass market games just seem to be inferior. But something, there is nothing wrong with Clue. And that is still a game that I enjoy. In fact, when we were at Gen Con, we played 13 Clues, which was basically like Clue again. So I really find it interesting that we're seeing some of the modern board games that are being built off of a staple, a mass market game that's in most people's homes.
I found it on my iTunes. Can you guys hear it?
A little bit. So, but what do you guys think about that? Like building off of the game like Clue?
No, that's fine. We know that 13 Clues that's coming out here soon as well is building off of it. I mean, a lot of games are building off of it. There's not. It's funny because I was just reading a comment by Joel Eddy on Facebook just earlier, right before we went on air, and I have to agree with him. There's not a whole lot of innovation out this year at all. And Dave, and I know you and I have talked about this a lot privately, you and I.
Yeah.
A lot of the games are just very same-ish, even though I've enjoyed quite a few of them, but there's not a whole lot of innovation. You can feel pretty much any game that you're playing nowadays, you can feel that it was based upon, something. There was a predecessor that came before it that does exactly what it does, and there's just a unique twist to it, and it's like, okie dokie,
So, yeah, real quick, and with that, with no innovation, I think that's just, I'll just make a statement real quick that it's probably because there's so many games. And before we came on the air, I just was on Board Game Geek and observing there for Essen releases, the Essen Geek List, there are 884 or 64, 800, over 800 games.
Wow.
Coming out at Essen.
That used to be a year.
Right. That's just a portion of the year. So anyways, so overall, real quick, Tim, the dad, final thoughts on Mysterium.
Oh, it's a great game. It's one that is going to stay in our collection. I do need to hunt the expansion down and also get the new one when that one becomes widely available. A lot of fun. Works great with a large group. Playing the ghost, I think I actually like playing the ghost better than playing one of the sidekicks, just because you do have that tension. It's frustrating, but you feel like you are the one that's really got the most control in the game, I think. So I really like that aspect. Overall, 2 thumbs up, a great game to play, especially at a Halloween party. Or, play it all month long.
Yeah, I can't argue. I think it's a phenomenal game. Playing as the ghost or the psychic, it's a winner in my book. So, yeah, I love the game. I think it's a deduction game with a neat little twist on it and super fun, man. I really, really love it.
I will echo that with all 3 of you guys that say that it's really a game that I like. It doesn't hit the table a lot for us, but specifically around this time of year is when we like to bust it out because the theme is actually set at a seance on Halloween. So right around this time is when we like to play it. But certainly one that is very approachable. You get people to go in there, although you can throw some people for a loop with the goofy, wacky artwork, but it just adds the elements of the game, like what is this ghost trying to say? So I think that it's a lot of fun. If you have not played it, definitely one that you're going to want to try and get your hands on. I recommend it. And if they do have a store event at one of your local game stores, try and get the mask. um, that's it for Mysterium. Real quick, anything that we're working on this month? So any other channel news that we got going on? Any of you guys?
No, I think I pretty much covered ours.
All right.
Well, we'll have Queen Domino coming up this week. That'll be one we're going to feature, and also I had just said, Fate of the Elder Gods. That'll be those two coming up real soon.
I know that we just released, one of my contributors has just put out a video for Guardians Call, and I've got a couple other things that we're working on. I'm trying to get my niece and nephews synchronized so we can do a couple of family edition games for some games that we got from Brain. So we'll see how that goes. Also going to be doing some two-player stuff with Chris, although I'm traveling again this week. I'll be in Iowa this coming weekend, so be challenging to get some games played, but we will anyways. But anyways, as we wrap the show up, closing comments?
Nope, just catch you guys next time.
And yes, Chris, Dragonfire is coming up too. I promise. I have to read through the rule book. Thanks for watching, guys.
All right, and for myself, just a really quick, wanted to make a statement to everybody. You know, we've had a lot of bad things that have been happening, especially in the United States, and just wanted to say, don't take for granted any of the relationships that you have with your family and your friends, and just realize and appreciate that when you know, we love talking about games, we love playing games, and make sure that you appreciate the people that you spend time with, the ones that are at your table, because you never know that could be the last time that you ever see them. So cherish those relationships. And thank you guys for watching, and we will see you again in 2 weeks.
Bye-bye.